What a year, huh? What do you mean it's only January 3rd? This is gonna be a long one. Greetings and felicitations, assorted children of the internet. I am the Logician, the Rantsona Reality Forgot, and, yeah. So, like, all jokes aside, to open things thus far, I do want to say that my thoughts and sympathies and my abject frustration do go out to the people of Venezuela. Obviously, it makes sense that under the current administration we'd kick this year off with something as abhorrent as that. And I don't mean to be a downer for the entire stream, but I just want to put it out there that I do in fact stand with the Venezuelan people. So, with that being said, I figured for the first Sim Saturday of 2026, it would only be fitting that we try and dip into resources most of us would not have considered prior in order to try and see a somewhat better future than we might get otherwise. Now, for the uninitiated, or those of you who do not frequent my streams, well, frequently, I'm a man of logic and reason. I don't really put too much stock in superstition or faith or things like that. However, much like someone who is pining after a new Animal Crossing game, I figured, why not try every single resource available to us? So tonight, for Sim Saturday, we are going to be playing TwitchJa. At least I think that's how it's pronounced. It's TwitchJa. TwitchJa. I'm going to be butchering the pronunciation either way. But I also figured, while I have your attention, just to make sure that I get the point across, because I've genuinely never really established too much of an actual announcement for my stream schedules. I might as well just put it out there officially that these are my main streaming days: Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. Tuesdays are going to be dedicated to retro movies and TV shows. Wednesdays are going to be all over the fucking place. Fridays are going to be based on fan favorite games and gaming series, with Saturdays being primarily dedicated to simulator games. Gotta try and find hope where you can. Yes, I 100% agree. See, all I can say is this: be safe, arrive alive, that is all that matters, and also looking forward to the new schedule. I appreciate that, Carl, and yes, I could not have said it better myself. Yeah, it's not really a new schedule so much as me having never really fully mentioned it. For a little bit, I was trying to do earlier Saturday streams, but the more time passes, the more I realize there's more I want to get done on the weekends. So pretty much every single stream of mine is going to be at 7:30 Pacific Standard Time. But I digress. I'm sort of straying a bit from the whole reason we are here, and that is to tap into a resource that I otherwise would not normally, unless the situation is dire. And I think you'll all agree that that is an apt descriptor of what we are currently dealing with. So, with all that being said, I think it is high time we dipped into the actual, resource itself. Not unlike a certain stale Cheeto Puff dipping into someone else's oil reserves. So, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I have no idea if this is going to work properly or not. I suppose it'll mainly come down to trial and error. And as always, do let me know if the sound or music from the game is at all overpowering, or if you cannot hear me properly in comparison to it, or vice versa. I'm a bit of a stickler when it comes to audio for my streams. Alright, so let us commence forth. Game could be standard. Okay, that is actually good to know, Koshe. Thank you. So let me make that quick little adjustment. Alright. I do hope that is a little better. Yes, Carl has in fact been cooking. Speaking of, I suppose it's my time to dip my hands into the ethereal fire of this game. English. Oh, sorry. Let me properly set the tone here.
English? I haven't spoken it in a while. So, you need wisdom from the afterlife. Where do you disturb our eternal rest from?
All right. Dorkier yet dorkier, weebier yet weebier. Yeah, no, yep, you called it. I was in fact using my Gaster voice for that.
It seems that the spirits are willing to communicate with you.
And how do I communicate with the afterlife? Of course. Of fucking course you would, Carl. Well, I mean... what a way to ring in 2026.
Can you feel me, spirits? Can you feel that chill all the way down to your bones? Can you feel my presence within you, inside of you?
And that is quite enough of that. The music was drowning me out. Well, I mean, I suppose that saved you. Good to know, though, actually. Let me actually lower the soundboard volume. Okay. Well, let's save that for another time to start. Let's actually get into the game. Alright, so.
Utter your questions out loud so the spirits can hear you.
Alright, so, let's see here. I mean, I suppose the obvious question is, will we manage to oust the stale Cheeto Puff? That is the most I can say without drawing unnecessary attention to myself, I suppose. And I have asked my question. What else? Alright.
Keep the planchette held to open the portal to the afterlife. And wait.
Alright, so. So now I believe, chat, this is your opportunity to let the powers that be know what your answer is. Hey, it works. Amazing. You can change how the responses are shown using H. Huh. Alright.
I hope you find the answers you are looking for.
Yeah, thanks, Cabal. Always good talking with you. Thank you for your help. Okay, so I believe now we have officially been left to our own devices, chat. Now, it's hard to tell exactly how long this stream is going to be with this simple mechanic. But, we might as well try and have some fun with it. Now, let me see. Well, you know what? This actually is somewhat of a golden opportunity for me, personally. Because normally I sort of rely on all of you and your redeems to ask random questions. But you know what? I think tonight I am actually going to use this as an opportunity to sort of wipe the slate clean, get rid of a bunch of the random questions I have had in stock for quite some time. And so, with that in mind, we're going to play a bit of a game. I am going to open my dice roller, and I am going to roll for my list of random questions. This is going to be a one-time thing, I think, in terms of streams. I mean, given how pear-shaped most of Koshay's characters tend to be. Yeah, thigh gaps are absolutely... They're even more fictitious than Ouija boards. But yeah, tonight will be a very special stream in that I'm going to be doing a lot of redeem-free rolling from the list of random questions. And it looks like we're starting with number 19. And of course it lands right the fuck on my skull. And this is going to be my question for all of you, chat. And it's going to be a race to see who among you can answer first using the TwitchJa board above. So, question 19 from the list. How did we get to the point in our lives where breakfast feels like a privilege? How did we get to the point in our life where breakfast feels like a privilege? You know? Okay, so this... Well, I mean, that is the correct answer. I didn't realize it came down to, like, when I released my hold of the... Pardon me. The thingy. Release the whole files. That doesn't feel worth actually joking about. My word. But yes, I also want to acknowledge Shakarian. It's been quite some time since you've joined us. Wasn't able to address that earlier because I was mainly just distracted making sure everything would work, but it is good to have you here. Alright, so that is one question from the list down. I would like to see if I cannot eliminate all these questions. Yeah, I work nights. Oh, my fucking sympathies. Yes, we have one question down. So, next roll. 17. Alright, so number 17 from the list of questions. Why are the most expensive foods often the filthiest? Steaks that are mostly fat, bottom-feeding crustaceans, the organ that produces bile and filters toxins from blood. What the fuck is it with expensive food and being just either is the least deserving types of food? Like Wagyu steak, and that's just like 80% fat. You know, goose liver, fish eggs, lobsters. Like this is just like the garbage parts of animals or otherwise just sea roaches. What makes them actually expensive? And this time, the first message I see pop up, I'm not even going to look at it. I'm just going to see. So yeah, what makes those like undeserving foods so fucking expensive? Hello, Baltimore. Alright. Just releasing. Yeah, I suppose I do. It is also capitalism. I see we are, well, be careful that you don't end up getting locked out due to the spamming, Carl. I'm not sure how that works with Twitch chat. Poor people cook best. No, you're fine. It's just like, I know that sometimes like when I have tried to type multiple messages in chat, it sort of locked me out after a little bit, like due to allegations of spamming, and I'm not sure if I have that setting established in my Twitch chat. So I just want to make sure that you don't lock yourself. But yes, no, I agree. It's really is a matter of like, poor people cook best. But it's just like, I don't know, man. Like, if I am paying top dollar for a steak, oh, since he has mod privileges, he's safe. Okay, that is good to know. Thank you, Koshe. But yeah, if I am paying top dollar for a steak, I want most of my steak to be the steak. Like, I don't understand the appeal of Wagyu when, like, normally it's, like, so obscenely overpriced that you can only get a little bit of it. And secondly, that, like, it is, like, just 3/4 fat. Like, a good, like, I don't know, like, a nice tomahawk steak has a good balance of, like, meat and fat to it. Like, generally when it comes to, like, burgers, for example, you want a nice 20-80 ratio of, like, fat to meat. I feel like that should be the same with steak. And, like, most really savory, delectable meats. So the Wagyu thing just does not make sense to me conceptually. In the case of steak, that fat gives a flavor. Oh yeah, no, the fat is absolutely flavor, but, like, try and render that down from the fat cap, then, is what I'm saying. Same goes to gold leaf. Oh, God, gold leaf. Don't get me fucking started on gold leaf. Because, like, people with fillings can't enjoy that shit. At least, like, the classic metallic fillings. I know those aren't nearly as common anymore, but... ah, my word. But yeah, no, like, goose liver, fish... And the thing with foie gras, like, bleh. Try saying that 5 times fast. Foie gras is, like... the method of obtaining it when it comes to fancy schmancy restaurants is, it's absolutely fucking animal cruelty. Like, these geese are force-fed. Like, until they fucking die, essentially. And then they're like, oversized fucking livers are harvested after these animals were fundamentally tortured their entire lives. Being, like, locked into a fucking, human centipede-esque situation where they're just hooked up and just force-fed. I mean, obviously, I don't know all the ins and outs, no pun intended, of that process, but, like, from what little I do understand, it is not a fucking pleasant experience for those geese. And fucking, like, caviar, I feel, is just really fucking overrated. Like, it's just fish eggs. In fact, a friend of mine earlier today showed me this video of, like, what appeared to be, like, a Japanese chef cooking up something. I was like, that's a kind of sus-looking fish. And they're like, oh, no, that's fish sperm. I didn't go out of my way to check the fucking price tag on that, but I guarantee you it is far more expensive than it is actually worth. Okay, so 2 random questions down. Now, obviously, with this being a D20 and this being a set of 20 questions, there's probably going to be instances of repeats. In that case, I'll probably go, like, rounding up or down, depending on what's been answered. So let's just keep this train a-rolling. Depends on the place, but 15 or 50... Jesus fucking Christ. $50 for fish jizz. I don't want to live on this planet anymore. Okay, question 6. Now this is an interesting one. Have you ever noticed that disaster movies, natural disaster movies, tend to bring out the gambler in everyone? Now, by that I mean, when you're watching a natural disaster movie, you tend to find yourself rooting for the protagonist, right? Or at least that's what the script wants you to feel inclined towards. And in the process, however, it sort of dehumanizes literally everyone else. Like, you see the car with the family or the cast of characters you know are the protagonists, and everyone else in that process, apart from those central characters, tend to be just, obstacles at that point. So, why are we just okay with that? Like, why are we just accustomed to natural disaster movies making us dehumanize anyone who is trying to survive that isn't the protagonist? Of course. Sent it too early. Yeah, sure. You sent it too early, I'm sure. Uh-huh. The culture of hyper-individualism. Okay, now that is an intriguing answer. I mean, that actually raises an interesting point, Shikarian. Because individualism is one of those topics that comes up in philosophy a lot that I've always sort of been on the fence about regarding whether or not it's actually an issue. Because I have never been one of those people who buys into the whole prospect of put the needs of your family or your country, before yourself, because that feels like cult mentality to me. Like, and I know that's like, it can be a bit of a hot topic or hot button topic for some people, especially depending on one's background or demographics or cultures or things like that. Like, and I know that can like really come up depending on like just nation of origin, ethnicity, what have you. But I have always felt that like the concept of, oh no, like you got to put aside your own needs and your own thoughts for the needs of the family, because family is what matters more than anything else. That just seems kind of fucking cultish to me. Like, this strikes me as just straight up fucking brainwashing and horse shit. And I have seen way too many people I care about get dragged through the fucking mud because they've been brainwashed to believe that. However, that does bring up an interesting point about just, I suppose, the extent to which individualism, even within the realm of fiction, can lead us to sort of, I mean, not even subtract value from other human lives. You need to have a healthy mix of respect for yourself and others. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree, Koshe. And it's like, I am confident enough in the nature of humanity to where I don't necessarily think that it's an intentional thing with a lot of modern natural disaster movies, but it seems to me like there's just a metric fuck ton. Okay, like I'll give you a perfect example. For anyone who has ever seen the movie 2012, the movie, about the supposedly predicted world-ending cataclysmic event that the Mayans supposedly predicted, which, I mean, let's be honest, that was just some fucking white people not understanding the Mayan calendar. But that whole movie was centered around this dude trying to save his family, from this world-ending cataclysmic event. And I think of the first major scene where he is escaping LA with his family, and there are even parts of it that are played up for laughs, but it's just him and his family in their car driving through crowds and through suburbia, through the city to the airport. And there's a scene where there's a couple of old ladies in a car in front of them, and they're just trying to get by. And so it just has him honking the horn, get out of the way, you old bags, and just cutting through people's yards to get around them. And then you instantly see that car with the two old ladies fall into a ditch. And it's played up as a fucking joke. And you see people falling from buildings and falling into cracks in the ground. And it's played up as this sort of spectacle. I mean, don't get me wrong, the cinematography was impressive. The special effects and whatnot. It was very much treated as a roller coaster ride. And that sort of brings up what I feel is kind of an ethical issue. Because I'm not saying that type of spectacle is really bad, but it sort of brings into question, well, what if natural disaster movies had no main characters? Imagine you were watching a natural disaster movie where you start off from the perspective of one person or one group of people just trying to get by, but then out of nowhere, suddenly they just get crushed by a plane or a falling rock, and then the perspective immediately shifts to someone else who is just a stone's throw away, and the story starts following them. And then maybe, I don't know, either they get crushed or separated from their larger group of people, and the perspective changes again, and you're left in the dark as to whether or not they actually survive. And the perspective keeps shifting and shifting, at a moment's notice without any really predictable pattern, so you're kind of left without an actual main character to root for. I feel like that would be an interesting take on a natural disaster movie, because it would sort of serve as commentary on how much we tend to sort of deprioritize the lives of anyone else other than our blorbos, our picked, selected favorites, and just sort of, I don't know, there is a part of me that wants to say it would be the Game of Thrones of natural disaster movies, where you never know if a character is safe or not, but I'm not sure I really want to compare anything to Game of Thrones, considering how that show ended up being handled. But I hope you at least understand where I'm coming from. I would like to see a natural disaster movie where there is no main character, and it makes you concerned for every fucking person on screen, because they are all human beings. But yeah, that's just my particular hot take when it comes to natural disaster movies. Alright. So, let's break out the dice once again. 14. I think it's less that we don't care, and more that you'll fucking be frozen if you worry about everyone and everything. You can only do so much. I mean, I understand that, but I also feel like it'd be an interesting social experiment to see how audiences react to that kind of thing. Alright, 14. From my list of random questions. Oh god. Well, this is a bit of a tonal shift. So, question number 14. When did the subversion of gender roles get rebranded as Gap Moe? When did the subversion of gender roles get rebranded as Gap Moe? That's not what that is. I mean, like, to my understanding, as someone who is, like, not nearly as weeby as he was in previous years, to my understanding, what Gap Moe is just something that is displayed by what is supposed to be a typically cute character that is out of character for them. Like, if a fucking, like, Moe anime girl, for example, like, has most of the fucking traits of, like, your typical cute anime character, but then it turns out they're really good at, like, I don't know, changing tires and getting, like, all greasy and muddy, or maybe they have a fucking hardcore gambling problem or something like that. That's what to my understanding, Gap Moe is. Like, that's just the subversion of gender roles. Like, why is this a fucking thing that people, like, apparently pine after in anime? I mean, once again, like, as I mentioned before, it has been a considerable number of years since I have immersed myself too much into weeb culture, so it's entirely possible that I am mistaken in that actual definition, but to my understanding, that's essentially what Gap Moe is supposed to be. Just, like, behavior or traits you would not expect from a typically cute anime character. Cute Moe blob dudes. Yeah, no, but I mean, like, why... That is just the subversion of gender roles. Why is it just called Gap Moe? Why does it need that type of, like, marketable label? Like, why does it need the fucking tsundere, yandere, dere treatment? Where it's just, like, a character trait that's turned into a fucking Pornhub tag. Because no one thinks of it in terms of gender and more like... Good, peaceful, and soft. Dropkick and moose. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I suppose that is sort of like the basis behind the humor in very specific series, like fucking... What was it called? Like, Nichijou, I want to say? Where there's, like, a scene with the principal of the school, like, locking a deer in a fucking pile driver. And they're just going full WWE on one another. Like, I seem to remember, like, from what little I've actually seen of Nichijou, that's absurdism. Well, fair enough. I feel like that kind of dips into what that definition of Gap Moe is, though. It's just like shit you would not expect from this particular character archetype that's supposed to be cute. I guess I'm trying to figure out where the dividing lines in that are. And why people felt a need to make it into a marketable tag. I think I've just become disillusioned with a lot of instances of like specific character traits or personality traits being watered down or boiled down rather to simple terms, like the whole dairy thing, which comes across as really gross to me. I suppose that's fair, and I guess with that in mind, I guess it kind of raises the question as to whether or not Gap Moe falls within that same sort of disconcerting simplification of character as like tsundere and yandere and derry and all that stuff, because that seems just like, to me, that type of character categorization falls into the same line as like distinguishing dog breeds. Is like, oh, look at this teenage character, they're a tsundere, you like that, don't you? And it's like, it just strikes me as really fucking gross. And I feel like the term Gap Moe, used simply to convey, just like, yeah, no, this character doesn't behave the way you think. It feels like a weird capitalistic simplification of just saying this person isn't who you would expect them to be at first glance. It's just a term fans use to talk about phenomenon they like. I suppose that is also fair. Alright, so. Let me make sure I have got that one crossed off the list. And we can roll again. Number 3. How's Canada looking this time of year? Asking for a friend. Basically, do we think it's worth venturing further north to get away from this horseshit at this point, folks? Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, there's the same white regulatory bullshit up there as there is here. And I'm actually glad you brought that up, TwitchJa. Because the thing is, a lot of people tend to consider Canada, like, without even doing much research into it, a lot of people see Canada as a sort of idealistic utopian society where, oh, they got universal health care, like, oh, everyone's friendly in Canada. But, like, if you've ever actually just spent time in Canada, especially, like, French-speaking Canada, or people who were born and raised in Canada, they got more than their fair share of problems. Like, especially the fucking indigenous people of Canada. Like, whether you're part of the tribes of the First Nations or... I wish my dumbass could remember the names of the other indigenous people who live further north. Like, I know they have been labeled as really fucked up, like, stereotypical terms in the past that I will not repeat because it's highly disrespectful to them. I wish I could remember what their actual, like, indigenous names are. But, like, if you're an indigenous person in Canada, you have been fucked 6 ways from Sunday for fucking generations, just like the indigenous people of the United States. And, like, I've talked about it time and time again. But, like, in the same sense, even if we could afford it, immigration would still be incredibly difficult. No, yeah, that is absolutely a good point as well. But, yeah, like, in much the same way that we have a lot of heavily right-leaning people in the U.S. is like, this here is America. We speak English. Get used to it. Like, that demographic exists in Canada. They just call themselves Quebecois. Like, especially those who lean into the fucking philosophies of the separatist movement. Which, for those of you unaware, the separatist movement, I say that as though it were just one given movement, but a lot of French-speaking Canadians have been of the opinion that Canada should be split into French-speaking and English-speaking Canada. Like, they just felt that closely tied to French culture and language and customs, which is hilarious because Canadian French is sort of the Canadian equivalent to American English, in that it's a far fucking cry from the fucking source material. Like, in fact, there are many famous instances where, like, people from France cannot understand a word French Canadians say, even if they're speaking French. And yet, a lot of fucking Quebecois have this entitlement to them, to the point where there have historically been repeated terrorist attacks conducted by French Canadians against English-speaking people or businesses simply because they spoke or used English. And a lot of people are just trying to sweep that shit under the rug and forget about it, but I feel like that shit's kind of important to remember. Especially in an era where neo-Nazis are popping out of the woodwork in the United States. So I don't fucking doubt that at any given moment we could see a fucking rise in the fucking Quebec sovereignty movement and all that bullshit popping up in Canada if we aren't careful. And again, my thoughts and feelings go out to all my Canadian friends. Because even those of you who are not Indigenous people, shit's fucking rough up there. Alright, so crossing that one off the list. Let's get another roll. Number 15. God damn it. Number 15. Sephiroth. Alright. So, as usual, this will come down to the first answer I see. I will release the mouse. Question 15. Given how much animation is handled overseas today and how heavily influenced by one another America and Japanese animators have become, are there any animated series out there at this point that don't count as anime? Depends. All right, let's hear your thoughts on this, Koshay. Depends on who you ask. I mean, I suppose that is fair. I mean, I feel like it's one of those things where, like, if you ask a New Yorker, or if you ask an Italian whether or not Chicago deep dish is pizza, they'll say no, but I still consider it pizza. But, like, told you about the debacle with the music video for Shelter by Porter Raps. I do believe you did, but at the moment I am failing to recall the details off the top of my head. So if you could elaborate, that would be appreciated. Because, like, once again, the only way traditional anime, quote-unquote, exists as we know it is because a bunch of U.S. troops from World War II left samples of American superhero comics and Disney paraphernalia behind at army bases in Japan. And that inspired Japanese artists and animators to make these large-eyed depictions of characters that would go on to shape the traditional aesthetics of anime as we know them today. And at the same time, a lot of modern animation that is predominantly featured or produced, by American companies, like, that relies heavily on outsourced animation from Korea, for example. And so there's sort of this feedback loop that goes into it. So, like, if we're relying on, like, Asian influence, or even Japanese-specific influence, then, like, what isn't fucking anime? Like, is the original Teen Titans cartoon anime? Is Avatar The Last Airbender anime? They look the part, but to my understanding, they were predominantly produced in the United States. However, I could also be wrong about that. Like, is Steven Universe anime, considering how much of that animation was handled in Korea? Of course, it's also entirely possible, like, in the same sense that, like, Japanese comics are called manga and Korean comics are called manhwa. It's entirely possible that there's this distinctive term for animation from Korea that I am not aware of, and if that is the case, I do apologize. Ah, my word. Excuse me. I mean, that's another thing, man, with, like, Disney specifically. Okay. Reddit user wants to discuss the music video for Shelter in anime subreddit. Post gets locked because the mod says it doesn't count as anime. And it's like saying SpongeBob deserves space on the same Reddit because it's animated in Japan. I mean, once again, it's sort of... With that in mind, please Google Shelter by Porter Robinson. I suppose. Let me go ahead. Porter Robinson Shelter. Oh, yeah, you did tell me about this, now that I see this. I mean, here's the thing. Like, by aesthetics alone, and given that, from what I recall, this was produced by a Japanese studio, if I remember correctly, I say this counts as anime. But again, it's a big part of that comes down to, like, purists when it comes to this type of thing who love to fucking gatekeep everything. The only non-Japanese person involved was Porter Robinson. I mean, that's just it. There have also been, like, full-blown anime series that use music or musical talent from non-Japanese people. Does it still count as an anime soundtrack because they use people who weren't Japanese? It's like the whole thing of, like, is it not Champagne? I mean, is it Champagne even if it isn't made in Champagne, France? A lot of it comes down to, like, people repeatedly moving goalposts. I mean, because the funny thing is, even, like, and again, it's also entirely possible I am misremembering, but I feel like just anime in and of itself was never meant to specifically mean animation produced exclusively in Japan. I think the original term for anime was just, like, shorthand for animation in Japan. So, again, SpongeBob could be considered anime if you just ask a Japanese person who's relying on the actual anime as the French word. Oh, really? Well, I mean, there you go. Bringing the French in again. It's a loan word. I see. There's also anime that use animators from different countries. Space Dandy had a couple of South American animators. Oh, interesting. Space Dandy is another one of those shows that I never really fully put myself into. I watched, like, maybe all of one full episode, and it was the musical episode with, like, the woman with spiral nerd glasses who, like, went to a ball or some shit. I have no... To my understanding, like, Space Dandy has this weird sort of, like, mixed aesthetic of Cowboy Bebop and Habanabashi Shopping Arcade. Those types of things. So, like, the aesthetic I remember being on point. Kind of sick as a whole. I think you'd like it. I might have to check that out at some point. Abenobashi. I misremembered it as Habanabashi. Directed by the same director as Bebop. Okay, I see. Because, I mean, I love Cowboy Bebop, and I absolutely love Carol and Tuesday, which I believe takes place in the same universe, if I'm not mistaken. But, by the way, if you've not seen Carol and Tuesday, I highly, highly, highly fucking recommend it. Like, there are some questionable elements, unfortunately, but by and large, I think it is a fantastic series, especially for music lovers and people who become disillusioned with, like, the music industry. But yes. It's time to cross another one off the list. And time to roll the die yet again. Here. 16. All right. Number 16. Why don't more games outside of tabletop implement flanking as a rule? Now, for the uninitiated, flanking in like D&D and other tabletop games where it basically says if you have like one player on either side of an opponent, you get advantage on attacks, which means you can roll twice and pick the better number. So I'm thinking, why don't we have this in like strategy games and video games, or hell, could that be do you think flanking could be implemented as a mechanic in actual sports? So why don't we have flanking in other games outside of tabletop? I'm gonna wait for a long, genuine answer. Because I feel like there's potential there, whether it's in like video games or real sports. There's a text limit. Oh, wow, it just went with boy. Damn. Okay, I stopped because I saw there is, and I thought you meant, oh, like there is a game? Maybe it's harder to implement video games. Well, I mean, like, Baldur's Gate 3 is a thing. That's basically D&D with a few tweaks. And it's been a fucking minute since I've dabbled in Baldur's Gate 3, so I don't remember whether or not they implement flanking in that. So most video games focus on individual actions. I mean, you would think, but like, it also feels like more and more games these days are sort of abandoning a priority on single player experiences and prioritizing multiplayer. So I feel like it could work for turn-based combat, and I could even say, like, I don't know, if you're playing, like, Call of Duty or some shit, like, any kind of first-person shooter, I feel like an equivalent to flanking could be, like, if the computer detects that you have a teammate that's on the other end of the target that you currently have in your scope, or you're locked onto, or you've already fired at, it could up the crit ratio of, like, the effectiveness of shots you take at them if you have flanking implemented. Would that require an additional bit of coding? Yes, absolutely. I can't imagine it would be the easiest thing in the world to do. But I'm just saying that would at least prioritize, it would incentivize additional teamwork. Marvel Rivals are dead. Oh, does it? Some characters can combine their powers. Oh, interesting. You see, I've never touched Marvel Rivals because, like, it just looks like it's just like an IP dependent Overwatch / Team Fortress 2. That's basically been my takeaway as to what Marvel Rivals is. Just TF2, but with, like, Marvel characters. 'Cause, 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 Yeah, basically. Okay, yeah. It's got some creative stuff going on. I don't doubt that it's got some stuff. Okay. But I mean, I will say, like, if you had something for, like, a team shooter specifically, as you said, because team shooters can either be, like, FPSs or third person, I feel like team shooters are the perfect avenue through which to mess around with flanking as a mechanic. Because, again, it would incentivize more cooperation with your teammates. Like, if you get, like, higher crit ratios of, like, damage effectiveness if you are flanking the enemy. It seems like a missed opportunity. The fact that cooperating with your team means victory is supposed to be instant. You would think, but I've seen so many fucking, like, highlight reels and, like, videos in general of people playing those types of games where they're just sniping one another or sabotaging one another for memes, shits and giggles. I just feel like, okay, if you actually make it so that teamwork puts out better results mechanically, that might turn those fucking shitlords into cooperative players. I suppose, yeah, ultimately it is still a player problem. And I think it also just kind of comes down to the toxic environment that comes up from a lot of shooting games, unfortunately. I think it also comes from the fact that I'm just going into D&D withdrawal. Like, for the uninitiated, late last November, a D&D campaign I was in for 6 years, pretty much exactly 6 years, finally came to an end. And I've just been in D&D withdrawal since then. I've been making new characters, new character concepts, and just, like, frothing to get my hands into a new campaign. But yeah, I want more games to implement D&D mechanics, is what I am saying. Alright, so cross another one off the list. Teamwork does put out better results mechanically, is the thing. Overwatch was designed with the intent of people using their characters' abilities with one another. Roadhog is a grappling hook. Junkrat has a bear trap. Roadhog yanks. Just no one wants to work together. Yeah, no, that is a good point. I mean, I feel like the OG Overwatch had potential as a game. It's just, unfortunately, the culture around a lot of shooters did it in that, and, well, just Blizzard being Blizzard. It left a permanent bad taste in my mouth when it comes to Overwatch. All the fucking loot box shit and... Yeah, no, you absolutely strike me as a Junkrat main. Affectionate. Alright. So, next question. 17, we already did. Well, I mean, rounding up, it would be this question, and... So this one is less a question and more a joke that I kind of stole from a friend. And this is actually interesting. Because what I'm going to do for this one, since it's a joke, I'm going to give you guys the chance to guess the punchline. How many Saiyans does it take to screw in a light bulb? How many Saiyans, as in Dragon Ball Z, does it take to screw in a light bulb? So 2.5. Alright, so why do we think 2.5, Shikarian? I'm trusting none of them boys to do basic housework chore. That's honestly the best answer I could think of. But why do we think 2.5, Shikarian? In terms of Saiyans who can change a light bulb. The suspense is killing me. Vegeta and Goku fighting over while Gohan actually screws it in. Honestly, that's a good answer as well. So, the actual answer given to me by my friend. How many Saiyans does it take to screw in a light bulb? Just one, but it takes several episodes to charge. Sure, I'll give you one for free, Koshe. I'm pretty sure I've earned it. Yeah, I think... So my hand is stuck. So I think it's possible you may have... Well, hopefully you didn't break it. There we go, okay. Also, you can't blame me for that. That was someone else's joke. Alright. So, next question. Oh, damn. Alright, that one. So, question 1. Move this over here so I can read this. So, question 1. In the same vein as milkmen, soda jerks, and telegram messengers, what modern-day job do you think will be the next to enter the annals of societal obsolescence? Basically, what job as a concept is going to become obsolete? Because we don't have milkmen, soda jerks, or telegram messengers anymore, so what's next? I can think of some options off the top of my head, but I am very curious about many of you. Oof. Ouch. Ouch. I mean... Many companies seem to be trying, unfortunately. Triage nurse. I mean, I can see that too. Because like it unfortunately does seem to be an increasing trend where creative work like art, voice acting, animation, more and more people are trying so fucking desperately to push AI slop into that fucking money machine. I'm sure all of you have seen that fucking post circling around Blue Sky where the one game company CEO is trying to discourage people from calling AI slop. At least I think they were the CEO of a game development company. I could be mistaken. But, like, someone who's fucking so fucking hell-bent on people embracing the wave of the future. Yeah, no, exactly, Shikarian. Just absolutely fucking fatherless behavior. I don't know why I went with that qualifier. It's just one of my new favorite funny terms, fatherless behavior. But, yeah, no, like, AI is slop. I need to clarify, generative AI is slop. Yeah, no, exactly, Baltimore. I'm fatherless and I'm doing just fine. Yeah, no, you raise a good point, Koshe, so I do apologize. But, yeah, no, generative AI is specifically what I am referring to. And that is absolutely fucking slop. And yet, unfortunately, more and more fucking tech bros are really trying to push their fucking agenda with it. Because they've already invested their entire fucking financiussy into it. And they can't admit that it's a fucking waste of time. Also, you fucking started now, Koshe. You have to follow up. I mean, push comes to shove, we're all a little bit broken, fathers are not. We can't admit the sons... Yeah, no, that's exactly it, Baltimore. It is absolutely the sunk cost fallacy. And unfortunately, they're making creatives pay for it. If I finish that thought, it incriminates you. You know what? That's absolutely fair. That is entirely fair, Koshe. So I will take the spotlight off of you. But, yeah, no. Because the thing is, I also saw another good answer with Shikarian, with HR. And that is actually kind of the funniest and, sadly, one of the most apt predictions that could be made regarding all that horseshit. I am just seeing now, in like less than 5 years, entire HR departments being replaced by AI. Like, I'm seeing more and more in that shit in daily life. Like, a few years back, I was looking into potential apartments to move into. And I started some back and forth emails with a supposed representative of this apartment complex. And we set up a meeting to discuss, like, okay, could I get a tour of the place? Finally get there. And meet up with a representative who apparently had no idea I was fucking coming. Because it turns out the email correspondence between me and the supposed representative of the apartment complex was a fucking AI. I was exchanging emails with a fucking bot regarding a potential place to move into. And on the one hand, there was no way this living person could have known about this shit. At least if they, I don't know, bothered to open a fucking computer and check the emails. So, I guess it's technically not their fault, but at the same time, it put enough of a bad fucking taste in my mouth that I never associated or bothered contacting that apartment complex again. Yeah, no, it is very disrespectful to people who want to fucking move their entire lives into a new place, but it's left in the hands of a fucking Clippy. I see you're trying to uproot your entire life. Can I help you with that? Fucking AI. So yeah, it would not surprise me in the fucking least if a goddamn HR department were replaced with AI as well. Alright, so crossing another one off the list. Let us go ahead and roll the die yet again. Well, already got a 1, so I guess the next one would be 2. Huh. Well, once again, we've hit a bit of a hypothetical, like, rhetorical question, I suppose. But I'll ask it nonetheless. Do theoretical physicists dream of Schrodinger's sheep? Yeah, I hate me too. Now, for those of you playing the home game... Oh, what? Bit of a hiccup there. There we go. Ooh, spoopy. Pay no attention to the nerd behind the curtain. But, boy. But yeah, to elaborate on the joke here, Schrodinger's cat is a thought experiment wherein you have a box placed in front of you, and you're told that there's a cat in this box. And it comes down to the argument of, can you really kind of successfully guess whether or not the cat is alive or not so alive? And, like, the base argument is that until you actually open the box to find out, the cat is both alive and not so alive. And theoretical physics deals with a lot of hypotheticals and shit we can't directly prove here on Earth. It's also a bit of a play on the whole, do machines dream of electric sheep? Do Christian see Russell Steve? See, I feel like that one might be going even over my head, Baltimore. Let me even look up then. Russell's teapot. Russell's teapot is an analogy formulated by philosopher Bertrand Russell to illustrate that the philosophic burden of proof lies upon a person making empirical, unfalsifiable claims, as opposed to shifting the burden of disproof to others. I see. Okay. Okay, I do love the little detail here that I'll even just save this image real quick. Just to exemplify why I find this kind of inherently funny. Golly gee, I wonder if this resembles anything else. I wonder. If you watch Amazing Digital Circus, you can see Russell Teapot. The thing is, like, I have nothing inherently against the people behind Amazing Digital Circus. I will not be watching it, personally. I think I've just become sort of conceptually exhausted by a lot of the exact same people putting out every major cult following indie animation. It's like I'm seeing the exact same people tied to the likes of fucking Has Been Hotel, like, involved in every single, like, big name fucking indie animation that's developing a cult following as of late. In the same sense, in that same vein, I'm also seeing just the exact same handful of, like, 2 or 3 voice actors getting involved in every indie animation. It's always Michael Kovac, ProZD, you know, involved in everything. And I just want to see something else. I want to see someone else get a chance to, like, get a popular indie project out there who isn't either a former member of the Has Been Hotel development crew or voice cast involved. I want to see other people get their fucking chance. And again, it's nothing necessarily against those people themselves. It's just... It's like when you're tired of seeing every single main character in an animated movie voiced by fucking... What's-his-face? The guy who was both Garfield and Mario. I never watched Parks and Rec properly, so you know who I'm talking about. That fucker, yes, thank you, Cochet. But yeah, no, it's just a personal thing for me. This is not meant to be any sort of admonishing of anyone who does enjoy those series. Like, if you're finding enjoyment out of it, like, more power to you. It's just not gonna be for me. In any event, it's time to roll for another question. And, you know, that is also entirely fair, Carl. Like, and it can be extremely frustrating. Like, when you like the story of a game, but it's sort of inaccessible to you from a gameplay standpoint. I know for a number of people I've known that's been the case with, like, Pokemon Legends ZA, where, like, they like the story and they want to see more of it, but it's hard for them to actually play the game because, like, it's much faster paced. And I like the gameplay style of Pokemon Legends ZA, but I also understand that not everyone has the... I mean, I guess I'm trying to think of a way to put this. A lot of people are far more used to, like, slower paced, turn-based RPG stuff. And so they might not have the hand-eye coordination, or they might just not be as adept at playing faster-paced games. And that can be disheartening when you want to get into a game, but you just aren't physically able to play it. And that sucks, and that is completely valid. Anyway. 17. I think we already did question 17. So let me see. Well, we did 16 and 18, so I think I just need to roll again. And skadoosh. Number 6. Let's round up. So this would be number 7 then. Okay. So. These games. All right. So, number 7 on my list of questions here. How many self-help books does it take to overcome your problems before you realize it would have been cheaper to see a therapist? How many self-help books does it take to overcome your problems before you realize it would have been cheaper to see a therapist? And again, this is largely rhetorical, but I am also just sort of curious as to what people have to say. Never enough. I mean, because that's just it, man. Like, there are, unfortunately, still a great many groups of people and individual people who consider things like therapy and self-help in general, mental health regulation, as very taboo subjects. Not helped by the fact that mass media in the United States, especially, has sort of demonized the practice of seeking professional help and labeling it as a sign of weakness. And of course, you also get the crowd of motherfuckers who will actually go out of their way to try and dissuade their loved ones from taking medication or seeking professional help with such choice quotes as, "Nah, man, we want to see the real you, not that shit when you're on the meds." I want to throttle those people. I want to either throttle those people or leave them in a fucking septic tank after giving them many, many paper cuts. Most self-help book writers are still depressed. I mean, that's just it, man. I feel like a lot of people who put out self-help books are dealing with their own shit and are externalizing it through putting out books and programs and shit because they themselves are not willing to acknowledge that they themselves need help. Books can't describe me. That's just it. Like, there is a very important distinction in the world of psychology between a psychiatrist and a psychologist. A psychologist is someone who extensively studies aspects of psychology from an academic standpoint. And they might not have necessarily a lot of real-world experience when it comes to clients. A psychiatrist is a psychologist with the medical training necessary to adequately and accurately prescribe drugs. And I feel like a lot of people overlook that fact because psychiatrists do require medical training in order to understand, number one, what prescriptions might help someone, and also understand that if a prescription does not help someone, what the reason for that might be in terms of metabolizing those drugs and what could be used as an alternative. Psychiatrists, good psychiatrists, will actually work with you to see to it that you get the best quality help you can. If shit isn't working, a good psychiatrist will not admonish you for it. If a psychiatrist, for whatever fucking reason, gets on your case and tells you that you're not trying hard enough or you're not invested, that's a fucking hack. Went to a therapist once to see if I was depressed due to all the shit I went through growing up. Turns out I went through so much that my depression flipped on its head into a mental break. Well, I mean, that's just it. Like, sometimes it does very much require an extra set of eyes and ears to be able to contextualize a lot of things. And Obviously, yes, talking to a trusted friend or family member can help, at least in terms of understanding the basics. But if you want to get actual long-term help, seek out a fucking psychiatrist. Someone who is affordable within whatever plans are available through your insurance or other means. I am so fucking sick to death of the practice of psychiatry being demonized or deemed worthless, and people wasting so much fucking money in self-help books and programs that often just make the problem fucking worse. So again, it starts with just talking about it. Talking about it to someone you trust and looking into professional options. Because in the same vein, something that can cause more harm than good is self-diagnosis. If you don't have the proper medical training, I'm not saying self-diagnosis is inherently a bad thing. Like, if you suspect you might be on the spectrum or you might have some sort of personality disorder, like, you are not bad for thinking that might be an option and doing initial research into it, but, like, don't latch onto it necessarily without getting a professional opinion, is all I am saying. Seek help wherever and however you can, to the best of your abilities, and fucking talk to people about it. People you trust, people you think can genuinely help you. Because I don't want to see more and more people sucked into fucking scams. Alright. Crossing that one off the list. Let's roll that die yet again. Number 10. Okay. Now, I don't think we've done 10 just yet. So, number 10. What do other VTubers have that I don't have? Besides breasts in an audience. So what do other VTubers have that I do not have? Besides the jiggle physics and an established following. Koshe, I think you spelled donut wrong. But yeah, once again, honestly, jokey question. Don't diminish the accomplishments of... Yeah, no, I mean, again, I do need to specify. This is me being a snarky, jokey piece of shit. The tits that you have. You know what? I didn't think about that. I mean, unironically, I will ask, like, is there something that those of you who follow me would like to see more of that you think work for other VTubers or PNG tubers? I mean, I do my best to try and do things a little differently so as to help myself stand out. Maybe a man, but I'm proud of my fatness. As well, you should be, Baltimore. After all, as they say, thick thighs save lives. But yeah, I mean, in terms of, like, PNG tubing and VTubing, is there anything out there that you guys feel I could try and participate in terms of, like, other practices that VTubers and PNG tubers participate in that you think might make my streams more entertaining? Fat ass is a positive quality for everyone regardless of gender. I can absolutely agree with that. Costume redeems. Well, you know, it might be worth looking into. People like dressing up Lorbos. I mean, I do recognize that there are a number of people. I mean, even just looking at my friend Hunchuan Bats, he has more than his fair share of costume redeems. I suppose the Hydrate Redeem is another popular one for a reason. I've seen some VTubers go into community games that have gotten better and better. I always get nervous about, like, playing multiplayer games for streams because, first of all, I don't think my computer can handle them. Like, I'll be honest, I'm surprised my computer can handle this game. And I guess the other part is that when it comes to communities for VTubers, like, I appreciate each and every single one of you who consistently follow my streams. I don't think I have enough of a following to warrant, like, having, I don't know, a Discord server or something like that. And also, I feel like trying to manage a Discord server would be a fucking nightmare. And I wouldn't want to pin that responsibility on anyone else, because I know I'm not capable of doing it on my own. And I wouldn't want to just shift that responsibility onto someone else. So, for the time being at least, I don't see myself getting a Discord server. I'm an extrovert personally, so I love talking to people. You might need to forego recording if you do collabs where you play multiplayer games. Maybe so. I mean, you also raise a good point that recording while also streaming probably does use up a fair bit of RAM. Ah, boy. I mean, again, I do apologize if I am coming across as at all dismissive of any of these suggestions. These are all valid recommendations. I do want to stress that. It's just going to be a matter of seeing what can and cannot work for me personally, given my equipment and just what I can handle psychologically speaking. Alright, so let me go ahead and cross that question off. And let me go ahead and roll the die yet again. See, I love how I went into this stream not really having a plan, and it sort of turned into a glorified Q&A. Also, redeem that's just like hi or here or you're right, you're wrong. A little sound. Yeah, maybe. Like, I know I have been toying around with the concept of... Because I have a lot of sounds on my soundboard. I have a lot of sounds and graphics on my soundboard, and I have been tempted to see if I can't implement those into redeems, but I also kind of like having direct control over a fair number of them. So, I might see at some point this year about relinquishing control of some of these things I have on my soundboard over to other people. You know, power to the people. Anyway, question 12. Why is there always at least one cart with a single janky wheel, regardless of where you're shopping? This bugs the shit out of me. So why is there always one shopping cart with one fucked up wheel, regardless of what fucking grocery store you go to, or even department store? It feels like every other fucking time I get that cart, like 3/4 of the time. Yeah, I mean, honestly, that is probably the most realistic answer. As is the case with most things in life, it all comes back to late-stage capitalism. The cart goblin. I mean, I know way too many fucking goblins at this point in my life to where that could legitimately be the case. Between Pusea, Koshei, Nox, the list is fucking growing by the year. Too many fucking goblins. I'm not a goblin. I'm semantics. But yeah, no, I think it is unironically just. Have I told you that my supernatural experience with a Ouija board my parents got my sister? Well, first of all, hello, Hunshwen. Nice of you to join us. Second of all, no, I don't believe you have disclosed this story. So, by all means, feel free to share. And while you're prepping that, if you are not already following Hunshwen, aka Gale Rice, I highly recommend doing so. He is a phenomenally talented voice actor, artist, and animator, and a couple months back, he and I finally released a long-term project we'd been working on called The Seeds Just Stick to You Part 2, which I highly recommend checking out, so please go follow Hunshwen. He is a 200-plus-year-old monkey VTuber from Mexicoland, as he likes to call it. He is far funnier than he gives himself credit for, so yes, by all means, please follow him. But yeah, no, this story I absolutely have to hear. Basically, my sister was communicating with Satan, and it went as far as to shut doors loudly. Jesus fucking Christ. You know? I suppose it's not everyone who can get an exclusive interview with Iron Mouse. I mean, the joke was right there, Crochet. Couldn't not. Sure as there's an explanation, but it was scary as fuck. Oh yeah, no, I mean, like, here's the thing. I personally don't prescribe to superstition or supernatural beliefs, personally myself, but that is not to invalidate others, and even if there is a logical explanation for a lot of things, that doesn't make those instances any less fucking scary. Been thinking of going into streaming, but I'm pretty sure my PC won't handle it. Well, I mean, I'll say this as well, Baltimore. My previous PC, when I first got started streaming, was absolute dog shit. And even my PC now isn't all that great, but there are a fair number of workarounds. Like, for example, if you want to limit usage of a camera, you could simply get a PNG tuber software to use a select number of, or even just a single PNG to represent yourself. There are a lot of presets when it comes to OBS and streaming assets. So I do think there are a number of resources available to you if you wanted to experiment with it. And I know it's a fucking cliche piece of advice that every fucking streamer and VTuber has thrown out there, but honestly, the best answer to trying to experiment with streaming is to just go live. Look into things you're passionate about, talk about them, play them, maybe just watch them. There are a number of streamers who do specialize in reaction content, though you will have to be careful about what can and can't be taken down in terms of copyright. Something more lighthearted about that Satan is when we asked if Super Saiyans were real, he said yes. I mean, to be fair, he probably thought you said Super Satans. Oh yeah, it was Mr. I forgot Hercule was called Mr. Satan. Oh my god. Fucking Toriyama was a fucking wild motherfucker. Ah. 07's for Akira Toriyama. Wasn't always on top of his game. In fact, there are many creative decisions on his part that I still question, but by and large, I do believe he meant well, so 07's for Akira Toriyama. For better or for worse, he did forever change the face of fucking anime. Alright, so let me go ahead and scratch that question off the list now. Now, for those of you trickling in a little later, I am essentially trying to eliminate my list of random questions that I've sort of had kept saved over the past year or so I can wipe the slate clean and come up with some new ones. So, now let's roll the d20 yet again. Number 6. Have I done number 6 yet? I did. But I have not done number 5. I did 7, but not 5. So. And this is kind of hilarious. I'm using a fucking Ouija board for this. So, question number 5. When the fuck did Quiznos come back from the dead? Because I thought those all went the fuck out of business. For those of you who don't understand what's happening, you can type in your own response to my questions using that prefix there with the exclamation point Ouija or TwitchJa, and then your response. So yeah, when the fuck did Quiznos come back? Because I was damn certain they went out of business like ages ago, and then found out some still exist. I feel like I might need to break. Yeah, no, I was surprised as well, Koche. I think there's only 2 left. I would not be surprised. No, for the uninformed, Quiznos is essentially Subway, but they beat Subway to the punch when it came to actually toasting the sandwiches. Like, before Subway even started, like, toasting shit, Quiznos is like, okay, what if we do the same thing, but, like, hot sandwiches? And they also became particularly memorable for their particularly cursed commercials using weird photoshopped PNG creatures playing a guitar and singing about the restaurant. Contain the souls of the monkey. I mean, yeah, I can imagine the restless souls of those PNG monkeys are still thrashing about in the space between spaces, forever doomed to live out their mimetic existence. On the disc horn. But yeah, you know what? Just to subject all of you to the deep horrors, I'm going to show you an example of just how fucked these commercials were. Get this set up here. Ready to peep the horrors? And behold.
We love these songs, 'cause they are good to us. The Quiznos subs, they are tasty, they are crunchy, they are warm because they toast them. They got a pepper bar.
Quiznos new Santa Fe Trio subs with smoky chipotle sauce. Fried chicken, roast beef, or smoked turkey.
The Quiznos subs.
Quiznos. Toast.
And we thought Ouija boards were scary. Sure loved hearing this at 2 a.m. Yeah, you're not wrong. Ah, my fucking word. But yeah, I mean, I guess this goes to show we're all equally fucking confused about Quiznos still existing. One of those things that defies reason, I suppose. So, with that in mind, let's give the die another roll. First time I saw those things was an albino black sheep. Oh, God. So, number 11. Number 11. Oh, we have not done 11. So, number 11 on the list of random questions for all of you. Okay, so we've come across another joke in my list of random questions. And again, this could be chalked up to a bit of a hot take, so keep in mind this is a joke, and I'm going to see which one of you comes up, or comes closest to the actual punchline I came up with. What's the difference between a speedrunner and a peregrine falcon? What is the difference between a speedrunner and a peregrine falcon? Just curious to see what people trickle in here. I will say I'm not the biggest fan of my cursor being tied to the fucking object. I really need to try and memorize what this thing is called. Something tells me we're good. You know what falcons do. Falcon doesn't have to try as hard. I mean, those are both kind of similar answers. Basically, the answer I came up with, the difference between a speedrunner and a peregrine falcon is the falcon actually appreciates what it consumes and isn't hunting for clout. Like, I've had this discussion with a number of people before, and maybe it's just bad luck on my part for finding especially shitty people. But it seems to me like every time I see someone doing a speedrunning video, they don't actually give a shit about the game and are simply trying to get through it as quickly as possible for views and content. You don't really know what speedrunners do, so you don't have a good... I mean, you know, that's also fair. I suppose. Having a bachelor's in biology, I'm more aware of what the fucking falcons do than what I do speedrunners. But yeah, no, again, entirely possible that there are actual speedrunners who genuinely like the games they play through. I have never come across a single one of them myself. It's just been people who absolutely lean into the label of content creator, trying to get through games as quickly as fucking possible, skipping over every dialogue option, breaking all the physics, and exploiting every shortcoming and glitch to get through a game as quickly as possible. and it's clear they actually have no fucking appreciation for the game itself. That has been my exclusive experience with speedrunners. Or speedrunners. They aren't actually going to post their long play on their speedrun channel. I mean, even with, like, longer VODs that I've, like, occasionally seen of people speedrunning games, it's clear they have no love for the actual content. Again, entirely possible it's just bad luck on my part not finding people who actually enjoy the games. Most people speedrun games they have already played a lot. I guess so? But that's also not been my experience. Like, either they've, like, just done research on a game without ever touching it themselves, or they're just trying to get through it as quickly as possible, like, on a first-time playthrough. And you know? I mean, it also admittedly comes down to me not looking into it as much. So that is also entirely on me. It's a different way to play it, a different challenge, I suppose, but I'm also one of those people who does not like playing video games fast. And so when I see someone going out of their way to get through something as quickly as possible and exploiting, like, glitches and things, it's like, that to me reads as someone who clearly has no love for the game. I like taking my sweet time with a video game and getting through it methodically and at my own pace. And so I see speedrunning, and I also see a bunch of people who fully do it exclusively and clearly for clout and views, and just turns me off of the very concept. Alright, so how many questions do we have left? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, damn. We have 5 questions left. Alright, so let me roll the die again. Number 1, we already did. I think we already did number 2, so let's just go ahead and give it another roll. Already did number 2. However, we already did number 3 as well. Yeah, we've reached that point in the stream where I'm just going to have to keep re-rolling. Let's see. Did number 15, 14, and 16. Number 12. Let's see. Did do 12, did not do number 13. Alright, so number 13. And we just label that so I don't miss it. Why does it feel like every time I try experimenting with a new medium of video creation, my life feels like it's turning into a fucking episode of The Twilight Zone? Whether it's making video reviews, or fandom content, or original stories, or VTubing. Why does my fucking life all turn into a fucking paranormal mystery? Or otherwise a weird, fucked up harem anime. Honestly, yeah. No, that's probably the just legitimate, accurate answer. I mean, apparently autism is in. Just look at the people fucking thirsting after Laios. And all the paranormal shit he gets involved in. Alright, so 17. Already did that. 14 already did that. Six already did that. 3. However, we did not do 4. Okay, so we can round up from 3 to 4. So, question 4. Y2K, 6606, and 2012 were each a bust. What doomsday date do you think people are gonna hype up next? Since the world did not end on Y2K 6606 or December of 2012, what date do you think people are gonna predict to be the end of the world next? Because millennials specifically have been seeing so many fucking doomsday predictions in our lifetimes. And I'm just curious which one we think is going to be hyped up next. February 14th. So, Valentine's Day. So, well, now I am curious. I'll get to yours as well, Shakarian, but okay, now I'm curious, Koshe. Why Valentine's Day specifically? This year, Valentine's Day comes right after Friday the 13th. Does it? Well, you know? I suppose that's sort of funny in and of itself. Though I guess that raises the question, would that either be the harbinger of the end of the world or simply the harbinger to a particularly shitty day? So, Valentine's Day 2026. Why are we seeing this as the potential end times? Check my DM. Oh God, what have you done? Well, I don't remember this specific joke, so let me set this up for a viewing. I think we will all find out together.
Elaine? Now you had another date in mind.
According to my source, the end of the world will be on February 14th in the year 2016.
Valentine's Day.
2016, huh? I mean, see, now I'm trying to remember what happened in 2016. Oh, yes, I did accidentally cut off the part at the end. Let me remedy that real quick.
Valentine's Day. Bummer.
There we go. But yeah, that's kind of the weird thing, man. It feels like a lot of a lot of even the most horrendous shit that happened prior to 2020 doesn't stick out as much anymore, unfortunately. You have 69.9 points. Nice. Nice. Yeah, no, I had a feeling it was 69.9k. But back to your prediction, Shakarian. Why do you think March 30th, 2030 is going to see the end of all things as we know it? Someone doesn't do enough redeem. Well, you haven't been redeeming enough, I guess, if you have that many points saved up. Don't turn that shit on me.
Daddy, chill.
All right. Well, there you go. You've used up some of your 69.9k. Ah, my word. But yeah, I do have a morbid fascination when it comes to doomsday predictions. I personally don't think so, but superstitious people tend to choose dates with repeating numbers. That's actually a good point. I mean, I know the whole, like, June 6th, 2006 thing was literally just because it was the year 2006 and it lined up with the 666 number of the devil, quote unquote, which I'm not even a religious person, but I think I remember hearing that the whole 666 thing being tied to the devil is horseshit anyway. Like, again, I've not properly picked up a Bible to read in my entire life, but I think I remember hearing that the whole 666 thing being tied to the devil is a common misconception. Kind of like how Mary Magdalene is a prostitute, but that's not what the actual case was. 616, something like that. Like, there's just a lot of shit that people took from the Bible and just wildly fucking misinterpreted, which, given how much cultural shit was stolen from other cultures and put into the Bible, like the fucking winter solstice being associated with Jesus, that does not surprise me. Inverted crosses are also a sign of humility before God. I mean, again, I will take your word for it, because I unfortunately have no frame of reference for that kind of shit. Literally, the first time I ever stepped foot in a church was as a child for a wedding rehearsal. The first thing I saw was the crucifix, and it was one of those particularly realistic crucifixes where you have a wooden carving of Jesus nailed to two pieces of wood. Babby Logician saw that, pointed it out, and said, "Oh my God, what is that?" Peter did not think himself worthy of dying in the same way of Jesus, so he asked them to crucify him upside down. Ah, okay. Interesting. I mean, again, like, to clarify, I mean none of this is any sort of admonishing or criticism of Christianity. I am simply speaking from a place of ignorance on this topic, because I have no frame of reference, having never been raised religious. But yeah, it is interesting that they went from Peter saying, "Hey, I'm not as much of a big dick baller as J-Man, so crucify me upside down." How that eventually got interpreted as being anti-Christian, yeah, I mean, I suppose in the same sense that we now consider it a fucking sign of poor weather if some groundhog sees his shadow. But the main thing I've hung on to that's relevant to the end of the world thing is that there's a verse that's like, the end shall come like a thief in the night. I mean, honestly, yeah, I would imagine that if the end does actually come, it'll be in a way that none of us can actually fucking predict, and it'll be over before any of us are even aware of what was happening to begin with, which in and of itself is kind of even more fucking horrifying. Of course, I also always think of that one quote from some fucking YouTuber or another. I cannot for the life of me remember who it was specifically, but the quote itself went along the lines of, the world is not going to end within our lifetimes because none of us are that cool. I go away for a bit and what? Well, that was your first mistake. Coming back, Carl. That being said, welcome back. Alright, so now we just have 3 questions left. And it's going to come down to dumb fucking luck as to whether or not I actually manage to get them. $18. I think I already got 18. 13, already got. 15, both ways. We have 7. We got 7, but we did not get 8, so we can round up to 8. So, I need to preface this by saying not only is this another joke, this is a joke that requires insight into a very specific series. This is not meant to be an actual criticism of any particular group of people. This is just a reference to a TV show that I am currently taking TwitchJa through. What do you get when you cross a Norwegian with a Swede? What do you get when you cross a Norwegian with a Swede? I mean, that is also true. That is absolutely true, Shikarian. What I have written down here, what do you get when you cross a Norwegian with a Swede? An insensitive joke from an 80s murder mystery. This is specifically in reference to a joke that came up in Twin Peaks. Didn't even remember. To be fair, it was from season 1, and we're currently going through season 2, TwitchJa. And season 2 is substantially longer. If we believe what Joel says about Swedes. I mean, Joel says a lot of things, and as entertaining as he is, I wouldn't put too much stock in anything he has to say regarding actual policies between people. Especially when you look at his older content. And I will leave it at that. Alright, so. Only 2 questions remain. I'm going to see if I can't get them relatively quickly. Nope. Nope. Well, rounding down, because we have done 10, but we have not done 9. And funnily enough, this relates to something we were just talking about. Question 9. Is anyone else scared out of their minds over the possibility of our solar system splattering against a giant windshield? Yeah. I had the distinct impression that was you, Koshe. Ain't gonna have my life. I mean, that's just it. Like, a lot of us like to think of our solar system as being sort of relatively stationary. Like our Earth rotating around the sun and all the other planets rotating around the sun. But the sun itself is hurtling like a fucking marathon through the solar system, through the galaxy as a whole. And the galaxy itself has a supermassive black hole at its center. Everything through space is flying faster than we can fucking imagine. I mean, we can make educated guesses as to how fast through theoretical physics and all that, but like, there is only so much we can pretend to understand about space outside of our own solar system, and there's only so much we can predict. And with as quickly as everything is moving, we can hazard guesses as to whether or not something is approaching our planet or solar system with a potential collision course, but like, we can only make so many guesses outside of that. Like, it's entirely possible there's something moving unimaginably faster than any of us that can predict, and just one day it's just going to be, okay, get me if I shoot first. Okay, Greedo. Is the Milky Way on a collision course with Andromeda? That is also correct. It is an actual scientific inevitability, at least as far as any of us can tell, that our solar system, the Milky Way galaxy, is in fact on a collision course with the Andromeda galaxy. And that eventually, long after all of us are gone, supposedly, the two galaxies will in fact collide, spiral around one another, and essentially become one massive galaxy. And everything we understand about the galaxy as we currently know it will be permanently changed. To my understanding, that is billions upon billions of years into the future. They're gonna kiss. They'll do more than that, Koshe. It is absolutely going to get X-rated with those two galaxies. I mean, that's honestly the best way to put it, Shikarian. Unfortunate as it is, that is absolutely the most accurate summary thereof. Alright. So, crossing that one off the list. Now there's only one question on my list remaining. And then I will have to spend the days leading up to my next stream coming up with an entirely new list of random fucking questions. But I felt it was about time anyway. I mean, I've been streaming for a little over a year now, and a lot of these questions have never seen the light of day, so I figured, well, why not purge? If I can get an actual nat 20, that'll be the perfect way to end this. Hey! Let's go! I'll be damned, an actual nat 20. Alright, so. The final question from my list of random questions. And that is, what's the point of even having a Twitter page anymore? You can't even argue that it's for business purposes, because the only people who exclusively use Twitter for their social media have a consistent reputation of ruining the reputations of everything they touch, including themselves. So legitimately, what is the point of still having a Twitter account? I mean, the thing is, I'm not sure which answer I like more, Koshais or Shikarians. Some people just love pain. I mean, that is also inherently true. I mean, I have heard some people make the argument that it is for art, but considering how many people exclusively use Twitter are also pushing for generative AI bullshit, I don't think the art argument really has a leg to stand on. They love pain, but they're too cowardly to get into hot wax and nipple clamps. I mean, that's also a very apt way of putting it. Like, people think Twitter got freaky. Blue Sky has them fucking beat by 1.5 miles. In any event, that was TwitchJa. Or TwitchJa. I genuinely don't know and don't care enough to know how that is pronounced properly, but that was admittedly more fun than I thought it would be. TwitchJa, that could also be the case. But I feel like I might want to make this somewhat of a an annual tradition going forward. Like, the last stream of the week within the first week of each new year, it might be a good idea to sort of wipe the slate clean by using this to get rid of all of my random questions. And who knows, maybe I'll have more of an audience to help come up with even more answers for these, because I will say as well, y'all came up with some fantastic answers for a lot of this, and you managed to make this last a lot longer than I thought it would, in terms of general back and forth memery and also legitimate conversations, and I can't thank you all enough for that. But, yeah, 2026 is off to a rollicking start. All I will say, just dipping briefly into real shit again, the people of Venezuela, we are with you. We don't want any of this horrendous shit either. Those of you who are able to, call your local representatives, let them know that you don't want this either. We need this shitbird out of the office as soon as humanly possible. What outside not real? Come kiss this year. Yes, honey. But yes, even on that note, for as fucked up as shit is right now in the real world, also don't be afraid to take a mental health break every now and then when it gets to be too much. Like, take action where you can, spread awareness where you can, because this shit cannot and should not stand, but also, you are not a bad person for needing to step away for a moment's respite. Especially when you have literally everything from 2025 that you are probably also still buffering from. So, take care of yourselves and your own. Take action where you can. And as always remember to fucking think. Stay safe, everyone.